So, I think my story starts really when my parents separated. I was in my final year of high school and I had seen it coming, but it still was a shock because I was used to having, and especially at the time I was living with my grandparents, so I was used to seeing a complete nuclear family, so to speak. And now, going through the motions of knowing that my parents were separated was quite, no one talked about it, and it was a matter of fact. It happened, hizo vitu zimepita, and that's that. And so I didn't talk to anyone about it. I didn't talk to my mother about it. Went on, finished high school, went campus, and then in campus, things started going south. The first thing that happened is that I realized that I was not the brightest student. Big issue. But then the problem was that I couldn't catch up that as fast as I expected to. I knew I could learn things, I knew I was smart, but for some reason, there were some things that I just couldn't get. I didn't know why. We get to third year, and at third year I realized what was wrong with my school part. And which was that I had been viewing math the wrong way. Story for another day. But at this time, I'm trying to figure myself out. I've been trying music, which I'm very passionate about. And in some areas it's working, in some it's not. It was interesting that I was in a worship team in campus, and I was trying hard to be the best singer and all, and I kept seeing guys come to the worship team. They are new, they come, they are not as good singers as, well, in my opinion, and then they just rise and they are leading worship, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Is it that I'm not that good? But when I go to another setting where I was doing music, in the university choir, I have the cognition. People know that I'm actually a good singer. And these two things did not quite make sense, because on one place I was confident that I was good, but in the other, I kept questioning myself. I kept second guessing myself, because I thought that these people who were quite good at what I did not think that I was good enough. And I kept looking for validation. That's the thing. I kept looking for validation from people. Then a bombshell dropped, and I realized that my dad, that is it. I was in fourth year. I realized that my dad, the person who I called my dad, was not my biological father. And that was shocking. It happened over a tea conversation with my grandfather. It was that casual. And I didn't even get prepared for that kind of news. And it was said so matter-of-factly, and it was left there. And so I was left aghast for all intents and purposes. And I didn't know what to do. I was angry at everyone. I was very angry at my grandfather because I had spent a lot of time. A backstory to this is that in my high school years, I had a lot of things, unkind things said about my parents in the extended family sittings. And I had spent a lot of time being angry that these things would be said and no one would even lift a finger. And then when my grandfather got this bombshell, I was angry at him that all this time, this was the reason. I felt this is the reason he had, or the family had the kind of, what do you call it? The kind of, well, at the time I felt it was bias. That kind of bias towards my family. I was angry at my mom that she never mentioned it. I was angry at my dad because now I had a reason for all the things that had gone wrong in life. All the times that he was not, I had felt he was not available. All the times that he probably failed to stand up to being a father, all the times that he didn't provide. Now I had a reason, and I was mad at him. And now I was mad at all the rest of the guys because they never came to my mother's rescue. They never helped her, apart from a few who were close. One of the sisters to my mom was quite close. And so it threw me off, and I went back to campus very distracted, tried to figure out things. I don't think that had anything to do with what happened at school, but for some reason, I just couldn't get my vibe at school. So I went through the motions. I went to classes, did cards, did exams, and refused to do the research project. So I finished, but I didn't graduate. And I was so tired with everything that I wanted a way out. I just wanted a way out. So when an opportunity came, well, it had presented itself before, an opportunity came to travel abroad to study for a year. I took it. Most people who were with me for that program were there because they wanted to study. But no one knew about my reason was that I was there for an escape. I just wanted out of my life for a while to try and figure out what was going on and what I needed to, the battles I needed to fight, the ones I needed to draw, and probably find there. And so that 1 year was probably the best year of my life so far. I had fun. I made friends, I met people I probably would not have met. Went to places, had a lot of fun. And then the year went on and passed, and I needed to come back. And coming back was interesting because I came back and the money I had saved while abroad was not as much as I thought it was. And so I had to get a house, get a job, and try to get my life together as fast as possible before my money runs out. By a stroke of grace, I got a job that wasn't paying much. I got a nice house. It was my escape. It had a nice view. I had picked up the hobby of photography. So I was having fun. Now the problem was that the job I got I was working with people that were not the kindest, if I may say it that way, to avoid saying bad things. And my boss would used to get mad easily. We were working in town, but my boss lived in some place in Jogoro. And so we most of the time would go to work together. Sometimes I'd go alone, then, but he'd shout for no reason, would throw tantrums for no reason. And at some point, he decided that I needed to get to work much earlier. I always left work late, so I had a problem with that. And tried to reason, no, if you don't want to do this, you can just leave. And so that's what I did. I just left my job. At the same time, something else was happening. My grandfather knew someone in the army, and had a conversation with him about me. He had said that, oh, I have a son, blah, blah, blah. He could get into the cadet. Well, it's not like you can pretend that that's not what happens with him. So, he told me, by the way, talk to so-and-so, you need to send your application for the cadet. And I had that. I struggled with the proposition because this time that I had spent abroad opened my eyes, and I realized that I didn't want to be in a place where my actions were ordered and directed by someone else. And so when this proposition came, I struggled with it a lot. I wasn't sure I wanted to do that. But I thought through it, and I decided, yeah, I think I will do this. I knew that there was a possibility that I might change emotionally, psychologically. Being in the military would change me. And I decided, well, I think I will take this chance. I had talked to some people, and they had given me some advice on how to make sure that I don't lose myself in that. So I sent my application. 2 weeks later, I get a call from one of my relatives. And they're like, what do you think they were not very understanding. I sent the applications. I had followed up because to make sure that they received the application, I used one of the courier services so that I could track and see if it was received. And I saw that it had been received. So when 2 weeks later I called and called quite a number of names, I was mad. I was wondering why wouldn't you even listen? I did this and I made sure that this was done. And I can even tell you the name of the person who picked. They thought I didn't send the application. So I had fought my demons and I had decided I'm going to send the application. But now it was, no, you're here, you're wasting your life, you're not giving me this chance and you don't even want to take it. Yeah. So I sent the applications again and I was shortlisted. So on the day that I was supposed to report for the intake, it was that same day was the same day, was the last day I worked at my other boss's job, because I had just decided that I wasn't doing that anymore. But now this was a welcome distraction because now I could transition into something else immediately. So we go there for the recruitment exercise, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, day 4. And then on the last day, when they are reading out the names of the people who were successful, and there hadn't been anything in the 4 days of recruitment that had pointed out that I am not fit. So in terms of qualifications, in terms of fitness, I was above average at best, average at most. I wasn't too bad to say that I couldn't actually handle that. And so my name was not in the list. And it was hard to take, because all the previous month or so now came back actually, because all the things that I had been told because of the letter, the debacle with the letter, and all the pushing and being told, you need to do this, you need to do this. I was done. I had decided, by the way, you guys, I'm not going to talk to you again.
This is family?
No, yes, my family. The only person I called on my way back to where I was living was my mom. I told her, well, it didn't go well. I'm on my way back. I'll talk to you soon. And I didn't talk to anyone in my family for the next 3 months, not even my mom. And when I went back to Nairobi, I was living in Nairobi at the time, I didn't have a job. So I was jobless with a house that needs paying rent, no plan. So for a whole month, kept looking for jobs and spent a lot of time in those. And at the time I was dating, and the dating scene is the dating scene. So somehow seemed to be working, but for some reason it didn't. I'm not mad about that. It was just one of those interesting times because I kept being told that I'm not comfortable in my skin. It didn't make sense because I did see it. I thought I'm just trying to figure things out and trying to be the best version of myself. And so after a month, a friend of mine attached me to a job in Mombasa, and that's how I traveled to Mombasa. No one knew I was here. I didn't tell anyone. I told them 3 months later when I went for holiday. I decided to just go for holiday. I told them when I moved to Mombasa. It was very short. I came back to Mombasa and life continued. And then when I started staying, going to church in Mombasa. And one day they introduced a program at church called Celebrity. I was wondering, so what is this about? I'm not an addict or anything. And well, I decided to give it a try. Why? Because at the time I had realized that I was having trouble keeping boundaries with ladies, and I knew it was going to be a problem somewhere along the line. And so I was like, I think this is going to bother me. I am not going to be able to be okay with it. And so I think it's best if I try and figure out if there's a way I can manage this. And so I joined Celebrity Recovery, and as we did the classes, I realized that the problem was not women. The problem was that I had a low self-esteem and I didn't know it. So all this time, all this questioning myself, and all this time when I'm not sure if I'm good at this, I'm not sure if, and something that I did say earlier is my grandfather was very quick with words, and the problem with that is that he would say things that would hurt. And whenever something went wrong, he would say things, he would throw things like, you can't use your brain, do you have such a small brain? Things like that, things that to him probably seemed logical. And I can remember a lot of times when he dressed me down to tears. To date, I can't stand someone shouting at me. you had better meet me up. I'd be okay with you beating me up, but shouting at me is something that I don't take well. So I had a lot of those times being dressed down to the point of tears. And so I hadn't realized it, but all this time, and then going on to campus and having the issues of questioning my abilities, not being sure that I was good at stuff, I had become very insecure. I had gotten such a low self-esteem that I didn't believe I could do anything well. Probably the reason why I went through my classes and then refused to do my research project for whatever reason. Refused to do my whatever supplementary papers I had. I hadn't seen it. And probably also the reason why, instead of trying to figure out my way out of whatever mess I had gotten myself into, I opted to take my first flight out. Granted, that was a good thing at the time because I got a break, but I didn't get my problems paused and waited for me.
You were running away from the problem?
Yes, I was running away from my problems. And so when I came back, problems were waiting for me, and they had enough time to prepare for me. And so to date, I'm trying to have done well with in terms of my professional life. I have learned my skill, but now I realize that there are things there are places I can't get to. There are jobs I can't get because there are papers I don't have. Whether or not I am skilled, whether or not I know how to do the things I need to do. There are forums that my voice will not be heard. And now is the time that I'm trying to face that part of my life and see how far I can put things together to allow me to allow me to either putting things under the rug or running away to the next easy thing when I have a chance. So it's been a journey. It's been quite a journey of self-discovery. And I'm grateful to God for allowing me to be in people's lives that allowed me to lay it there, to say all the things that I was going through mentally, to say all the things that I was going through emotionally, and to not prescribe answers. Why I say that is because a lot of times and even I have found myself trying to prescribe answers to people, while the best thing to do would have been to allow them to figure out those answers from their point of view, because they know their story the best. I know my story better than even my mother. mother would tell it. But I don't know her story. I still don't know my father. I have not had that conversation with my mom. She knows her story. She knows why she hasn't had that conversation with me. I might want to push her to tell me who this person is. She has her results, and much as it is not a good for me, that is not my call to make. I can only hope that one day we will have that conversation. But the funny thing is that my mom has become one of my best friends. She's really become a good friend. She's let me into her life, allowed me to be a pillar sometimes. And, it's been amazing to not only that, but also to see her encourage me when I am not in a good place. I joined Celebrate Recovery because I had they're not just about chemical addiction. And so I was like, since I had this issue of boundaries, keeping boundaries, let me see how I can. And to realize that I had a low self-esteem was shaking to me because I had expected that, good things I have gotten acknowledgement for a lot of things. But when I started questioning, now the part of my life that wasn't about women, about sex, is when now the issues of why I did the things I did. For example, why, like I said, my issues with school, my issues with the way I related with my family started coming out, and it was very scary because I didn't want to admit that I could have a low self-esteem. I was easily the most popular guy on any of my circles. I was relatable, I was easy, I was helpful, the kind of guy who, you need something, call him, he's going to find a way. But it so happens that I get so involved in people's lives so that I don't have to deal with mine. So I will go out of my way to sort someone else out. They are having an issue or they need something done. I will go out of my way and make sure that whatever they need to accomplish, they accomplish it and on time. But when it comes to the things that I need to do for myself, I keep shelving them. Because I do not think I'm confident enough. I'm competent enough to handle those. And it was weird for me to understand that because, wait a minute, a lot of times when I hear people talk about low self-esteem, it is, they talk about how people project on others. And here I am. The only thing that makes sense with the facts that I have here is that I'm struggling with a low self-esteem. But I've not projected it on people. not taking care of myself. And I hadn't gotten to the place where I was comfortable in my skin again. That phrase. I hated it the first time I had it. But when now I examined my life and I realized that the only thing that makes sense is that all these things have culminated in me not believing in myself enough to do anything for myself, has led me to now, instead of focusing on myself, making sure that I'm so invisible to people. You need me, I'm there, but I'm never the constant one. I'm just there when you need me and I get things done. And I do not need to show you what I need. I have become very invulnerable because you cannot see that I need it. It was taboo for me to say that I need something. I'm still not good at saying when I need something, but at least now I'm able to say no to things when I know that this is me doing something, getting out of my way, do something, just to get that information from someone. The only way I could balance that out is that if I help someone out, maybe my life would be worth something. So I didn't allow anyone to help. I didn't allow anyone to know that I was sometimes in need. I didn't allow anyone to know that I didn't always know everything. So whenever information was needed, I was ready to, I research within minutes and come up with information just so that at any point I do not get to that place where I am seen as inadequate. But it was just the problem that it was only outward. It wasn't something that was in me. It was just something that I did to make sure that my life wasn't scrutinized. The more I get to the place where I am at home in that skin, the more I'm able to now make changes that are not only to cover things. I make changes that actually change my thinking process. The more I admit that this was a problem, the more I'm able to identify when I'm doing things from that perspective and try to now change to see it from a different perspective and see what would I do, what would a normal person do when we use that phrase. What would a normal person do? Or what would give 2.0? What would I do in a different scenario? If this wasn't an issue, if if I'm able to identify those moments, I know I am able to tell myself, if this wasn't an issue, how would you deal with it? And I'm able to formulate different options for the same thing. Being married has meant that sometimes I have to compromise. Sometimes the best way would actually be detrimental to that relationship, and so it's forced me to have an even more open mind when I'm doing these issues, and also celebrating small wins. I think that has been important for me, being able to celebrate the smallest of wins for myself.